Good morning. Great morning. Welcome back to another Nudelberg Daily Huddle. It's Thursday. This is the final one of the week because we will be on our on-the-ball retreat tomorrow to Chicago for the weekend / boys trip / field trip.
Do you remember the last time OTB took a trip? And it wasn't even really. It was more of like a family trip.
Oh, the last time we all took a trip together, New York, maybe?
Yeah, right.
And
right.
Shay wasn't on that trip. Were you?
No.
Shay wasn't on that trip. So
No,
it doesn't really count as an on-the-ball trip.
I think this is like the first on the ball, like the new on the ball getaway, right?
It's been a long. So I just having this conversation with somebody yesterday. Oh, so shout out to John Chapman. John Chapman is a sales professor and the head of the sales academy at East Carolina University. Had a great call with him yesterday, and we were talking about all the different things you teach sales and dealing with young people and all the stuff that he's going with. But I kind of took him through the trajectory of the last 4 years, and he was like, wow. And I was like, yeah, when I explain it that way, it does feel like a lot. I was like, but it's kind of felt natural. Like it doesn't feel like it's been a rocket ship, but it's
it wasn't without its ups and downs, just like anything that you build. But it is wild. Like I'm a sports guy, but like seeing that like Steph Curry is 36, like made me feel like I was like, oh wow, like this is kind of the end. Obviously,
I'm older than Steph Curry. So
I know. My buddy, when he said that in the group chat with us, I was like, ooh, relax. It was like, that's old. And I was like, oh, no. I was like,
2 years older than Steph Curry.
Like, know your personnel. But in other sad news, the Heat lost last night. It looks like their chances are dwindling.
So I actually thought it was over last night. Like I thought we were eliminated because we lost last night. So there's another game that we have to play now against two.
They entice.
And it just so happens to be in Chicago.
Well, it's not in Chicago. It's in Miami. It's in Miami, but it's against Chicago. But they play the 9 and 10 winner. So it entices everybody who didn't make the playoffs to get an opportunity. So if you're in a 7th or an 8th spot, you have 2 chances to get in the playoffs.
Got it.
As if you're in the 9 and 10, you have to win both to get in.
Got it.
So it is the exact same makeup as last year. I don't think Jimmy Butler will be healthy.
So Chicago played Atlanta last night and beat them.
Exactly. So very similar.
Now they have to travel to Miami and win again.
Golden State will now travel to New Orleans, who lost to the Lakers. It's great. Who's excited about women's sports right now? Obviously, I think we've talked
So this, you know what? This isn't on the docket to talk about, but I want to talk about this because I just saw Caitlin Clark's contract for the WNBA. It's a 4-year, like $330,000 contract. She's making like $75,000 a year to play professional basketball. I think there are teachers who make more money than that.
Well, look, there's always this conversation about equal pay and where the money comes from. I'm going to use golf as an example right now. They are paying people that has nothing to do with the revenue that they're making. They are outspending their revenue to keep their players happy. It's not a sustainable model. You will go broke. The league will run out of money, right? In NFL, the salary cap is set by the revenue created by the league, correct? So if that is the format of which you're going, if anybody wants to do the real financials of the WNBA, most of those teams lose money on a yearly basis.
Right.
So they're looking for an influx of cash to grow the league, to make it more, to get TV revenue. So they're in the process. But I think that there is a conversation, no matter what industry, of we can only pay you what we're making. And as the game grows, they will have viewership that'll change, which will lead to bigger deals, which will then lead to bigger money for the players.
Which is so interesting to me because I would imagine that the women's tournament did pretty well this year. I would imagine that the NCAA drove a significant amount of revenue,
more than the
I mean, maybe Caitlin Clark was making more money at Iowa than she
Probably was.
is on her
Right.
contract.
Right. Like, I
for the
think that the
WNBA.
reality is that more people, and I think that's why there was some animosity from the older players who are in the WNBA of going, why are you guys watching college basketball? Right. We're the best. So you like women's basketball. So you're telling us you like it, but we're telling you we're all the best, but you're unwilling to watch it, or you're not watching it at the same rate. So it's an interesting.
Or go to the games.
Which I would say is an indictment of whoever's running the WNBA, whoever's been running the WNBA.
Don't think it's the player's fault, right?
Right.
It's
not really the product then.
Right.
Because if people are interested in the college product, the WNBA has to be a better product than that.
It's a marketing thing. It's a marketing thing.
It's a marketing thing. Whoa, what a great take from Jake Nudelberg this morning. It's a marketing problem. Right. They've done a horrendous job of marketing the league and making the league something that you want to be a part of and that you have access to and that you know when to watch it. And because it's not the same problem as like the USFL or the XFL. That product is not as good as the college football product or as the NFL product. That's just the reality of it.
Right.
But the WNBA should absolutely, and I'm sure is, a better product than the NCAA, but they've done a horrendous job marketing it and making that known.
Yeah, it's a great conversation. I love that we get to it almost every week. We're already 7 minutes into this. Get to wake up.
I like this idea from Mike Vergara. We're doing a huddle night out at a WNBA game this season.
Where is the closest?
We'd have to go to Orlando, I think, right?
Does Orlando have one?
I don't know. I really don't. Again, horrendous marketing.
Dream. I didn't even know they only had 13 teams. I don't know. Let's get to wake up music. Let's get to some content.
Go.
Wake up, everybody. Get up, get up, get up, get up. Wake up, come on. Wake up, everybody. Teach a new way. Maybe then and listen what you have to say. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed.
Let's go.
As we always do in this show, or a new feature we've had. It's not so new anymore. So it's as we always do in this show. We do a daily affirmation. We control our brain. We control our thoughts. And we ask for prosperity in our life. And so this is today's daily affirmation. Mark, can you do the honors?
My actions are purposeful and create an overflow of prosperity. I love it. Simple and effective, directly to the point. Talking about, and I think this is good because it reminds you that your actions should be purposeful, right? And I just saw a quote from James Clear about like if you want to project your future, you want to predict your future, go back and look at all of the daily habits of the week and try to figure out what the compound value of those are, and then you're able to predict your future. Are you getting to the gym? Are you eating right? Are you learning something new and upskilling? If you're doing those things, those have compound effects, right?
Doesn't just happen without accident. It's at least I don't believe that, is that no person who's ever reached success turns around and goes, oh, that just happened. You know, there is very few if they did, you know.
I saw a great video from Jesse Itzel this morning who was talking about that there's 2 million podcasts on Apple iTunes. And I think he said 10% of those 2 million only have one episode. And 60% have 10 episodes or less.
Right.
And so he's talking about like you can be in the top 30% just by doing 11 reps. Right? Like just by doing it a little more, just by having a little bit more grit, not even a lot of grit, just having a little bit more grit than everybody else. You immediately put yourself into the top 30%.
Well, I think it's also interesting when you go through like social media and you go to people's pages or you go to company pages and you see that their content was in depth. There was a lot of it, right? And it was consistent, and it was every week, and then it just stopped, and it slowly dwindled, stopped. And so many dormant pages live now. It is a marketing game. And if you're not marketing yourself correctly, obviously, but there is a commercial I want to get to that kind of sets the tone for today. And then, so Shay, play it, please.
Oh, Shay was gone from the computer.
Oh,
He's back.
Well,
He's back.
Sorry. What was it? Sorry, go ahead.
Play the commercial. Play the Nike commercial.
Got it.
Greatness. It's just something we made up. Somehow we've come to believe that greatness is a gift, reserved for a chosen few. For prodigies. For superstars. And the rest of us can only stand by watching. You can forget that. Greatness is not some rare DNA strand. It's not some precious thing. Greatness is no more unique to us than breathing. We're all capable of it. All of us.
Find
greatness. So the story of that commercial is also very cool because they weren't allowed to use Olympians in their ad. Like they weren't Nike athletes or something about it that they weren't allowed to use the Olympians. And so their marketing team came up with this ad was that you don't have to be great. You're not born with it. And it where we got it was because we're hiring, right? And we're talking about how we want to hire, who we want to hire, skills, passion, and really in-depth process on what we want in our organization, right? And it leads down in this path of, and I think me and Dad got there and you got to have a passion for something. You got to have that innate something within you to go chase greatness, to go want to be better,
you got to have a drive.
Right.
You have to have the drive, right? And that to me it's a non-negotiable. And if I can hear or feel your passion or your zealous for life in general and your ability to wake up and go do whatever it is that you do, there is a candidate that we're talking to that is a rock climber, right? That's his passion. And he does it all the time. And he was able to communicate to me the struggles and why he likes it and why he likes to do it and what he wants to do with it and how he wants to continue to go. And that to me was oh, you immediately move to the front of the pack because you're able to talk to me about something and I can hear so if you have it in that, it's possible to find it in something else.
Right.
If you're going through an interview process, you're going through the business development process, and I had this conversation with the kids at JA about presenting their business. If you can't communicate your passion to me, you've already lost. Forget it. Don't even waste your time with the rest of the conversation because somebody else will communicate their passion. And even if it's not as good, they're going to win because people buy energy before they buy anything else.
I'm going to take Dad's smoke a little bit, but he's working with Amaranth, right? And he had somebody follow up with him and said, hey, I was very scared at first and uncomfortable, with the coaching. I never really had it. But Steve's passion every week is the difference between me getting up and doing all these activities. And it was such a lesson in just showing up with passion and being present and making people feel you, and the impact that you can have being that. And I know we're going to get down to talk about being a Debbie Downer. And that's one, how many times we can say the word Debbie Downer in this show. Right. But while I do want to say this real quick before we get to motivational music is I want to show sales funny names because as we were going through naming what a possible sales position would be, these are when you Google what fun sales team names can be.
Google comes up with some great ones. I thought the Sultans of Sale is
the Sultans of Sale
one.
Is fantastic.
The Closed Wands. It's just phenomenal.
Close a lot. That's Come Sail Away. So I wasn't the only one.
Prospect Casanovas. I was some of these are so bad that they're funny because if somebody were to reach out to me with or just following up. Like I would love to see some of these as your tagline on LinkedIn.
I'm the prospect Casanova. Can we have a virtual coffee, please?
From sail away.
So if you're looking for funny names, look at Google. It'll give you some inspiration. Let's get some motivational music, and then we'll finish with some content.
I'm packed and I'm holding, I'm smiling, she living, she golden, she lives for me. Says she lives for me, ovation, who won't motivation. She comes round and she goes down on me, and I'll make you smile like a drug for you. Do ever what you wanna do, coming over you. Keep on smiling, what we go through. One stop to the rhythm that divides you. And I speak to you like the chorus to the verse. Drop another line like a coda with the curse. Coming like a freak show takes the stage. We give them the games to play. To say I want something else to get me through this. Send me some kind of life, baby, baby. I want something else. I'm not listening when you say goodbye.
Oh, they were about to jump into it right there. Cut it off right before it was.
You couldn't let it go another second, because if it went into it, then it would just.
Then you gotta let it go through the whole verse, bro. You're locked in for another 40 seconds.
Right. No, so it's always good.
There it is. Jonathan Aaron says, "Love me some Third Eye Blind."
If there was anybody I could count.
I can say this pretty confidently that there is probably only one band from the 90s that will go down in the history of rock and roll or in the history of music as one of the greatest bands ever. And that would be the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Okay, just
right. So they're the only ones that you could ever, with the music volume and the decades of music.
You're just not putting Three Doors Down there,
right? But so this is my next point. But I would say that genre of 90s rock and roll is a album of music that is phenomenal, because you have to put Matchbox 20 in there,
right? And it just stopped.
Yeah, and then it just disappeared.
It's just like Daughtry, ended it.
Nickelback and Daughtry were the end of it.
People had enough.
No more. We're done with
it.
Creed.
Ended.
Creed, Nickelback, and Chris Daughtry ended the genre of 90s rock.
Holiday concerts, music. It is like, I don't know if I get that from you, from hanging around you, but it is like the best music. And as I get older, like as I get more to my mid-20s, I'm like, it gets better.
Today is technically Friday for us because we're traveling tomorrow. So like the weekend starts tomorrow. And I don't know that there is a better Friday happy hour music than 90s rock and roll. Like just put on Matchbox 20, roll the windows down. It's a phenomenal time.
I do think that's a good segue. It's what we're going to talk about today, about Debbie Downers and Ursula Uppers. I don't know if you read the article, but I
did read the articles. Ursula Uppers, right? And then I came up with my own name of people who were not in this study that I think is who you want to be, which is Realistic Rita. If you got Debbie Downers and you got Ursula Uppers, right? You really want to be Realistic Rita is who you want to be.
Okay.
But so this was a great study, and I'm glad you found this. This was put out on Inc. It was a great article on Inc. about.
I do think Inc. has the best articles, by the way.
They're a great publication, and I still get the hard copy, which I always get, and then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna read this article in it, and then I never do, and then it ends up in the recycling, and I should probably stop getting it to my house. But we're getting off track here. So the article, right? There was a study done about the effects of thinking positively, right? And the level of being that, as soon as adversity hits, being that ultimately positive person, which we've talked about before, the difference between positivity and optimism, which I think is important to understand here, because what the study found was that the people that are just like absurdly positive in the face of adversity actually hinder the ability to find real solutions and come up with plans and strategies to move through the adversity and obstacles. It's actually the people that are the Debbie Downers that actually look at the scenario in the worst case scenario and say, well, this is what it is. And here's how we can try to create a path forward through it. And those people actually have a better opportunity in moving through and growing from adversity than the Ursula uppers do.
Right. And it's how do you in an organization cater to those people? Because I think you're going to have, there's going to be a mixture of the personalities when adversity hits.
I'm dealing with so many
to hire for that, right? Like, you know what I mean? Until adversity hits, you don't really know.
I'll tell you, one of the candidates that we're talking to in BizDev, they won't shut up. They speak so like they run on and on and on. And that's one of the pieces of feedback through the interview process is that like, dial it back a little bit, right? Like you got to your point 5 minutes ago and you're still going, like know when to stop. So I would say that I'm dealing with a lot of communication breakdowns inside of organizations right now. And most communications breakdowns come from the inability to understand who the other person is that you're communicating to, and then having the ability to adapt your communication style to match theirs or to be able to communicate with them. And so similarly, when you're dealing with somebody who's an Ursula upper, you have to understand how to relate to them first and go, yeah, we're going to be fine. I agree with you. We'll be able to get through it. But here are some areas that could be critical that we should probably look at. Because if you go the total opposite and go, no, we're not going to be fine, this is the end of the world, you're never going to find a common ground and find the place where communication and collaboration really happen.
Do you try to get them to see it on their own, or does it get to the point where you're kind of just like showing them where it is? You know what I mean?
I think you got to point it out to them, right?
Right.
Because especially with the Ursula uppers,
they're never going to get it.
Right. But it's the same for the Debbie Downers. Like you got to bring them up a little bit, right? Like you got to go to the Debbie Downers and be like, hey, I hear you. This sucks. You're right. This sucks. And it's not where we want to be. But what can we do? Let's think about what we can do here. And it's easier to actually, in my opinion, it's easier to coach the Debbie Downers than it is the Ursula uppers.
Yeah.
Because the Debbie Downers tend to have more self-awareness than the Ursula uppers
too, of like, hey, we got to go, of like, let's light a little bit of a fire in your ass of the reality of the world.
And so we're talking about both, right? But ultimately the person that you want to be and the 1%ers of the group and the people that do the best in this are the realistic Ritas. The realistic Ritas have the awareness to understand that there are real obstacles and real problems, but they don't allow them to ride the emotional wave, and they still are able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Even though they know there's going to be unbelievable hardships, they know there's a light at the end of the tunnel that they can get to.
And if you take nothing else from today, is be a realistic Rita. Don't be a Debbie Downer, or don't be an Ursula upper. Those are your 3 names of the
realistic
day.
Rita, baby. We got to all be real.
Figuring out who you are in your organization, figure out who the people are. No Huddle in the hot seat tomorrow. So we're back on Monday with you two, recapping Chicago and all that good stuff. Mark, any final words for the week?
Have a great rest of your week. Finish the week strong. Don't forget that the grind includes Saturday and Sunday. While we are on our boys trip, we will be working as well and working on all kinds of things like the Eat, Drink, Think. You guys have a fantastic rest of your week. We'll see you on Monday. Let's get down to business.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down, let's